This is the scene tonight at the Berlin Wall. We'll take you there live.
An amazing weekend has come to an end in West Germany. It was a weekend that saw sections of the Berlin Wall demolished. New gateways to freedom used by more than 3 million East Germans. But as the weekend came to a close, most who left East Berlin returned home to begin what promises to be their first full week of freedom. And good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It is now early Monday morning in Berlin. The crowds on the west side of the Berlin Wall have now dwindled.
But for most of this weekend, hundreds of thousands gathered there to celebrate Thursday's announcement by East Germany that the wall would be opened. This weekend alone, 800,000 East Germans have crossed the border once blocked by the Berlin Wall. They came to meet the West, the first time they've been allowed to do so in 28 years. Today, the East German Communist government announced it will hold an emergency party Congress next month to elect new leaders to carry out further reforms. It also instructed border police who once shot at their fleeing countrymen to no longer use firearms.
And a WCCO television news team is in Berlin tonight. That team is led by Dimension reporter Tom Stewart. Our team arrived in West Berlin on Saturday morning, Twin Cities time. Since then, they've been on both sides of the Berlin Wall and were at the border as thousands from the east visited the west for the very first time. And as Tom Stewart now reports, they were there as more of the Berlin Wall came tumbling down.
Another piece of the past fell today in Berlin. A new way through the wall that seemed impenetrable a few days ago. The gap quickly closed, jammed with hundreds, then thousands of ecstatic East Germans. Thousands of West Berliners turned out for the reunion, welcoming them and cheering them on. A scene so inspiring it moved many to tears. Until now, Christina Lorenz and her husband Peter never expected to be free to walk to the other side, and they feared their two children would never see over the wall.
It's exciting days for us. For the first time in West Berlin, it's absolutely exciting.
There is no stronger proof than this for how quickly this wall is becoming irrelevant. East Berliners now coming through the latest opening in the wall, the soldiers standing aside and watching them go.
They still get out the ammunition occasionally, but now they use water rather than bullets to get the partiers off the wall. Guards that once used any means necessary to hold them back, clearing the way, enjoying it in some cases as much as their countrymen.
We are very happy. You can see it on the face, or at the face, and our heart is very warm. Yes.
Startled U.S. Army observers stationed in East Berlin watched the East Germans march by.
It's amazing how things can change overnight almost.
Every day now, tens of thousands make the pilgrimage to the West Berlin side of the wall, more impatient than ever to knock down the 28-year-old barrier and what it stands for.
You can look through it.
Not just Berliners, but supporters from around the world.
I'm happy because I think the world is going to a very long, peaceful period of time.
One wall going down, others springing up. Human walls formed by countless East Germans from all over the country. And the difference in their standard of living strikes them immediately.
It's a very big difference between this town, Berlin West, and the town in Berlin East, East Berlin, yes.
Each East German, even those just visiting, receives $55 welcome money, a law left from the days when they risked their lives to escape.
Thousands are standing here in front of the bank until the bridge, and I don't know, there's so many people here. It's fantastic.
And they remain well into the night. Some, like this man, searching for the sister he last saw 20 years ago.
He has had no contact. It's really hard to contact people between East and West. Hard to find people.
For him and millions more East Germans, the freedom to travel offers new hope. No one knows how many will remain here, but most expect to return to their homes in East Germany and come back often.
Beauty is beauty, wundervoll. Also, I am happy. Also,
And what a great scene. There have been about 300 million extra people in West Berlin this weekend. That's a lot of extra people. We have reports they've been running out of beer and Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Our news crew even had trouble finding a hotel room.
They did. Tom Stewart joins us now live from the Berlin Wall. Tom, good evening or good morning Berlin time. Perhaps
That's right, Mike. Right now it's 5 o'clock already, Monday morning Berlin time here. Residents of the city will be getting up in a few hours, and I'm afraid that few of them really know what to expect after all the excitement that's been going on. So much has changed here in the last few days, and not just for Berliners, but for East-West relations as well. There's no going back now, there's a sense of that here, just excitement and yes, some trepidation, Mike and Debbie, as this not-so-divided city starts to face the future.
Tom, can you give us an idea of how West Berlin is coping with all the extra people who are there, possibly even looking for jobs and thinking of staying?
I'll tell you, with hundreds of thousands of people pouring across this border every day, it has been absolutely chaotic. Thousands of people in the streets at night, out on the Kurfürstendamm, soaking up sites that they haven't seen in years, or many of them have never seen in their lives, even though they've lived just a few hundred yards away. They're even starting to run out of some of the basic supplies. Housing is tough to get. For us, we couldn't even find a hotel room our first night here. It's just been chaotic, and yet it's been wonderful because nothing seems to matter except what matters, that the wall has been opened and that people are here experiencing it, soaking it up, meeting friends and relatives and strangers, and just really getting reacquainted for the first time in so long.
It's the beginning of a monumental week in East Germany. Tonight we go inside that country and meet a family living there as our special coverage continues.
In East Germany, hundreds of thousands took to the streets of Leipzig to protest for continued change in the communist government. The demonstrators say reform is moving too slowly. But the East German parliament today elected a leading reformer as the new premier and picked a non-communist speaker. The demonstrators continued their call for free elections in East Germany. This after a historic weekend in which an estimated 3 million East Germans took advantage of their new freedom and traveled west.
A WCCO TV news team led by Dimension reporter Tom Stewart has been in Berlin since Saturday. They have witnessed the dramatic events which have taken place since the Berlin Wall started coming down last week. Tonight, their reports on East meeting West continue. Tonight, they take us to the other side of the wall, to the home of Peter and Christina Lawrence, an East Berlin couple in their 30s. They've been among the thousands protesting for change. Here's Tom's report.
Life in East Berlin started returning to what passes for normal these days. Fewer East Germans lining up to exchange money, fewer leaving through Checkpoint Charlie. But the euphoria felt by hundreds of thousands of East Berliners, like the family we met about to leave their side of the wall yesterday, still reverberated throughout the East German capital.
I hope the wall will fall. They aren't our enemies. They are our friends.
After all the excitement this weekend, the Lorenz family returned to their apartment at this complex on the outskirts of East Berlin. Back to a way of life that seems more unsatisfactory than ever after seeing the other side of the wall. A way of life that forced them to wait 13 years on a government list for a car. They finally gave up and bought this 2-year-old model from friends. The price, 3/4 of Peter's annual teaching salary.
I'm waiting for the other car since 1976. 15,000 marks. It's not cheap for us.
We visited Peter and Christina's 3-bedroom apartment. Plenty of room for their daughter to play. They live well by East Berlin standards, but not well enough.
Our economic system, I think. It's bad. It must change.
Human rights for all?
Yes, human rights for all.
For all people.
More freedom, political and economic. Christina, a homemaker, can count on staples like coffee, but not on other items taken for granted in the West.
Every day I find milk, bread, butter, eggs, but when I want to buy, if I want to buy some oranges, there isn't any fruit.
Peter works on the side, sewing leather bags to sell on the black market. Despite his hard work, they still do without a telephone, on another waiting list since 1986.
Some weeks ago I went to the town hall to ask when it's possible to give us a telephone. We can't help you, we can't help you.
But finally, they see changes. The East German parliament debating reforms publicly for the first time.
You can write your opinion to the newspaper about these problems.
More openness in the press, a feeling they can make a difference for the first time in their lives.
People go and demonstrate when they won't change anything. They go and demonstrate again, and we too.
They still consider themselves to be communists, but a new breed.
You say this land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island. And we say from the iron ores to the Rügen Island. It's our country. And we love it. That's why we are here.
But how many younger East Germans stay here with them depends on whether the changes keep pace with their new expectations. With John Blake and Bill Kruzkopf, Tom Stewart, WCCO Television News, East Berlin.
On the East Berlin side of the wall, there are internal barriers between the city's sealed-off sector and the wall itself. Those barriers consist of barbed wire fences with electrical shocking devices and sensors. For nearly 3 decades, it has been known as the death strip. Today, the communist government said it would begin to dismantle these barriers. Tomorrow, Tom Stewart will visit that area. His report tomorrow on the 10 p.m. report. From the east side, the Berlin Wall, reporter Tom Stewart takes us to what's been called the death strip for nearly 3 decades. Now, today, Dimension reporter Tom Stewart, who has been in Germany since the Berlin Wall began its tumble, visited the death strip. Here's what he found.
The Berlin Wall went on worldwide display the last few days like never before. Around the clock excitement. Almost exclusively centered on this half-mile strip by the Brandenburg Gate.
It's just amazing. It's just the best thing in the world that can happen.
This may be the wall's most colorful section, but it doesn't give you the entire picture. This 103-mile-long barrier surrounds the entire city of West Berlin. And the more you see of it, the better you appreciate the human spirit that refused to be imprisoned by it.
Habt Acht! That's a great day in German history. The wall is falling down.
Falling, or at least failing, in spite of the 300 guard towers here. More than 100 miles of metal and electrified fences, hundreds of soldiers with submachine guns, and police dogs still patrolling the perimeter, remnants of what was. The wall went up in 1961, right over the trolley tracks. Part of it goes past Hitler's old bunker. 12 to 15-foot high chunks of prefabricated concrete, a foot or more thick. In the river, the East Germans erected barricades and booby-trapped the water. But by smuggling people out in cars and countless other means, an estimated 5,000 East Germans escaped in the last 2.5 decades over the wall.
They invented impossible things to come through, digging tunnels and whatever, jumping out of the windows and, and getting shot, some of them.
This building, just inside West Berlin, marks the spot where 22 East Berliners tunneled under the wall in the 1960s. But just behind it, a memorial to one of the 200 or so gunned down trying to flee. 2 East Germans died trying to escape just this year. One shot by the border guards across this canal, another who crash-landed in his homemade balloon. Now you can see up close the extreme security system set up by the East Germans. Just inside the wall, the so-called death strip, a no-man's land as wide as a football field, with watchtowers and believed to be laced with explosives. Beyond that, a second wall in many places, guarded with electronic sensors. Unlike the west side, no one lives close to the wall here in the east, just a few office buildings with barred windows.
Well, all the office buildings, usually the ground floor, they have grills in front, so prevent people from crossing the wall, jumping and getting over.
Crosses commemorate the victims who never made it, but they will be remembered by those just getting a taste of the freedom they longed for.
It's a great feat on the part of the Germans, on the strength of their determination to become free.
So, this wall takes on a new meaning, no longer just a symbol of a divided past, but also a sign of a more open future. With John Blake and Bill Kruzkop, Tom Stewart, WCCO Television News, at the Berlin Wall.
You may have noticed in Tom's report that East German guards are still stationed along the wall, presumably there in case the crowds get out of hand. They've been instructed not to use their guns. They also are there to hand out visas. A footnote, 4,000 East Germans are imprisoned for trying to escape from their country. The government has announced they will be freed at the end of this month.
It's all incredible, isn't it?
It's history.